Hello friends, welcome to my channel. So today we'll discuss some more Java interview questions for about 8 years experience software testers. So let's get started. So first question will be on multi-threading. Like if hash map is not safe, then what could be an alternate approach? When dealing with hash maps in multi-threading context, ensuring thread safety is crucial. A standard hash map in Java is not thread-shaped, meaning that concurrent modifications by multiple threads can lead to data corruptions or inconsistent results. Here are some alternative approaches to make a hash map thread-safe. Let's say concurrent hash map is one of the example best for general purpose use when high concurrency is expected. Collection synchronized map, simpler but potentially less performant due to higher contentions. Read-write lock provides more control over read and write operations but adds complexity. Immutable structures, useful when immutability fits the problem domain and you want to avoid synchronization altogether. So these are some of the options that basically makes the multi-threading more thread-shaped. So in conclusion, like every approach has its own trade-offs in terms of complexity, performance, and user scenarios. But concurrent hash map is one of the best for general purpose use, where high concurrency is expected. Collection synchronized map simpler but potentially less performant, and read-write lock immutable structures. So based on what best fits to your project, you can basically select the approach as mentioned above. Next is how to achieve multi-threading in Java. Multi-threading in Java can be achieved through various mechanisms. Some of the basic advanced approaches can be extending to the thread class, simple but less flexible, implementing the runnable interface, more flexible and preferred for more use cases, using executor service like high level API for managing thread cycles, using callable and future for task that returns results, and for scheduled executor service for scheduling tasks, using fork or join framework for parallelism and tasks that can be broken down into subtasks. So these are some of the options that we can use to achieve multi-threading in Java. So in summary, like extending to the thread class is one of the approach. Implementing the runnable interface using executor service, callable and future tasks, using schedule executor service, using fork or join framework. Now you can select based on like what best fits to your requirements, and you can proceed. Why isn't Java class based multiple inheritance support available? So Java does not support class based multiple inheritance because it can lead to several complexities, often referred to as diamond problem. So the diamond problem occurs when a class inherits from two classes that both inherit from common superclass. This can lead to ambiguity in method resolution and state management. So here are some of the major reasons why Java avoids class-based multiple inheritance. First is ambiguity in method in resolutions, then state management issues. Next is increased complexity. So these are some of the methods which we can basically use. You can basically main reasons why Java does not support multiple inheritance. Now Java's design decision to avoid class-based multiple inheritance simplifies the language and avoids complexities associated with method resolution and state management. Instead, Java provides interfaces with the ability to implement multiple interfaces and different methods to achieve a form of multiple inheritance. This approach balances the need for flexibility and design to maintain simplicity and clarity in the language. Okay, so these are some of the reasons. Then let's move to the next questions. Difference between throws and throw keyword. So throw keyword is explicitly used to throw an exception from within a method. It is followed by an instance of an exception. While throws used to use in a method signature to declare that the method can throw certain exceptions. Okay. Understanding the difference between throw and throws is basically crucial for proper exception handling in Java, ensuring that exceptions are managed effectively and that the code is robust and error tolerant. So here the purpose is basically to declare a method that can throw an exception. So what are the basic difference in summary? So throws basically used to declare potential exceptions a method might throw, while throw is actually throws an exception. In terms of throw location, throws basically is used in a method signature, while throw is used in a method body. Syntax can be throws exception, while in case of throw it will be throw new exception. Exception type, it specified multiple exceptions, while throws basically throws a single exception in inheritance. Another major difference is throws can be used for compile time exception checking, while throw can be used for runtime exception checking. So in summary, throws is used method signature to declare that method can throw specified exceptions. It alerts the method caller to handle or propagate these exceptions, while throw is used within a method body to actually throw an exception. This disrupts the normal flow of the program and triggers exception handling mechanism. Next slide is explain label loop in Java. So a label loop basically consists of a label followed by a loop statement. Examples for, while, do, while, these are like loop statement keywords. The label is an identifier followed by a colon. Now, label loop basically allows to name a loop and then use break or continue statements to control the flow of outer loops, not just the innermost loop. Usage. Labels are useful in nested loop scenarios where you need to break out or off or continue outer loops based on conditions. Syntax. The label is defined before the loop construct and follows a colon. The break or continue statements can then reference this label to control the loop execution. Label loops provides a powerful way to handle complex loop control flows in nested loop structures. Okay, so in summary, label loops basically provide a way to control flow in nested loops. Okay, and break level, it exists a label loop. Continue level skips the current iteration of the label loop and proceeds to the next iteration, and it is label loop is basically useful in complex nested loop structures where fine-grained control of loop execution is needed. What is transient variable in Java? So in Java, the transient keyword is used to indicate that a particular instance variable should not be serialized when the object containing it is serialized. Serialization is the process of converting an object state into a byte stream, okay, which can then be written to a file or transmitted over a network. When an object is deserialized, that is converted back to an object from a byte stream, the transient variable is not restored, and then values are typically set to their default values. Example, null is for objects, 0 for integers, and false for booleans. So one of the question is why we should use transient. So when we mark a variable as a transient, you are telling the Java virtual machine to skip this variable during the serialization process. This is useful for fields that do not make sense to serialize, such as those that are derived from outer data, or for security reasons such as passwords. Okay. So in summary, transient keyword in Java is used to mark fields that should not be serialized. Okay. When an object is serialized, transient fields are ignored and are not included in the serialized representation. Upon deserialization, transient fields are initialized to their default values. For example, null for objects, 0 for integers, and false for booleans. Next slide. What is synchronization and why it is important? Synchronization in Java refers to coordination of concurrent access to the shared resources, such as variables or objects, to ensure data consistency and avoid race conditions in multi-thread environments. In simpler terms, synchronization prevents multiple threads from simultaneously modifying shared data in a way that could lead to incorrect result or program instability. So synchronization in Java is basically a mechanism to control the access of multiple threads to shared resources. It ensures that only one thread can access a resource at a time, which helps prevent data inconsistency and thread inheritance. Synchronization is crucial in a multi-thread environment to ensure the correct behavior of the programs that share resource across multiple threads. Now, some of the importance of serializations are: it prevents data inconsistency, adds thread interference, ensure atomicity, thread safety. So these are some of the advantages. Okay, and finally, in conclusion, synchronization in Java is essential to maintain data inconsistency, preventing thread interference and race conditions, ensuring atomicity. So by using synchronized keyword, we can control access to shared resources, ensuring that only one thread can execute the synchronized code at a time, thus making the program more thread safe. Why does a thread enter? What state does a thread enter when it terminates its processing? When a thread terminates its processing, it enters in a terminated state. In Java, a thread can be in one of the following states. New: when a thread is created but not yet started, it is a new state. Runnable: when a thread is ready to run, it moves to the runnable state. This means that thread has been started but not necessarily executing at the moment. It could be waiting for CPU time. Blocked or waiting: if the thread is waiting for a resource or waiting for another thread to release a lock, it is in the blocked or waiting state. For instance, a thread can be blocked while waiting for IO operations, input-output operations, or waiting to acquire a lock. Timed waiting: a thread can also enter a state of timed waiting if it is waiting for a specified amount of time. This can happen when a thread calls method like sleep or wait timeout. Terminated: when a thread completes its execution or is explicitly stopped, it enters the terminated state. Once a thread is terminated, it cannot be started again. Okay, so these are some of the states of a thread. Okay, and once a thread is terminated, its resources are released and it can no longer be scheduled for execution by the JVM. However, its thread cycle, its life cycle might still have effects, such as if it's modified shared resources that other threads might be dependent upon. Next slide. What is wrapper class in Java? A wrapper class in Java are the classes that encapsulate primitive data types and provide utility methods for interacting with its data types as objects. In Java, primitive data types like int, char, boolean are not objects, but sometimes it's necessary to treat them as objects. Wrapper classes provides a way to convert primitive data types into objects and vice versa. Here are the wrapper classes for each primitive data type. Integer wraps an int value, long wraps a long value, float wraps a float value, double wraps a double value, short wraps a short value, byte wraps a byte value, character wraps a char value, boolean wraps a boolean value. Now next most important interview question is how to create a custom exception in Java. So custom exception in Java is basically the user defined exception. Okay. Now that can extend the exceptions class or one of its subclasses. Custom exceptions are used to handle specific error conditions in a more meaningful and readable way. Okay. Creating custom exception allows developers to define their own exceptions hierarchy that suits application needs. Steps to create a custom exception. First is extends an exception class. So basically, we need to create a new class that extends exception for a checked exception or runtime exception. Okay, for an unchecked exception. Now defining constructors, provide constructors that match those superclasses. Those are superclasses. Then add custom methods. Okay, add custom methods, which is optional, so you can basically add additional methods or fields of the required or fields if required. So these are some of the steps to basically create a custom exception. Now let's move to the next slide. So I think this is the end of this series. We'll try to create a custom exception now. So if we just move to the editor, we'll basically create a custom exception. So let's say public class my custom exception extends exception. So as I mentioned, we need to extend an exception. Okay, then we'll just say public my custom exception. We'll call that my custom exception class, and then so this is basically a constructor because it's the same method with the class, and then we'll write super class basically calls the parent class in object. So now this is created. Now we'll create another class public my custom exception string message. We'll pass the message string message. Okay, variable, and then cause. Custom exception, normally we need to use throwable. Okay, then should use super message and then pause. Okay, static. Okay, and then we can just say we can create a custom function also. So public class custom exception example, and write like this. Okay, then public void process import int value, can like this, and then we can say throws, we can call this my custom exception. Okay, and if we can mention something like if value is less than, let's say 10, something like that, we can mention something like this. Then we can just say true, then we can just say throw new my custom exception. Okay, value cannot be negative. So this type of custom exception we can write where I am creating a custom message also, value cannot be negative. Okay, now when I'm actually executing my code, then I can basically call this method something like custom, we can remove this one, custom example, we can just say example, and then we can just say example we can just say custom x dot, we can just call this method process import. Okay, and then we can just say we can write some values. So let's say 10 or something, you can mention like this, and then we can write it as an inside try catchy block. Okay, my custom exception that extends to exception. Okay, class. Okay, and then you create one generic function where you will call that my custom exception class. Okay, and then you write your parameters here, like process import you are mentioning like value is less than 10 or 5, and then once you are done that, you can basically go to a main method and call this class and call this method also and implement the try catchy. So that's how you basically create your custom exception. Just create exception, and that's all for this session, friends. Thank you very much. Hope you liked it. Please feel free to subscribe my channel if you like them, if you like my videos. Thank you.